Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Lisa Haven News Network. I have with me two hardcore geoengineering activists who not only have been gathering some pretty hardcore, tangible data for proving geoengineering, but are also the official eyewitnesses to the chemical fibers that were dropped in Chino Valley, Arizona. Their story went viral once they tested the fibers and found that they contained the perfect cocktail for your geoengineering trail. That is your strontium, barium, and aluminum. As a result, their story was featured widely on InfoWars, as well as in Telehub, as well as I featured it on Before It's News, and I will be linking it in the post as well. So with that, I want to introduce, first of all, Marie Snow. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
And Mrs. Corey Gunnels, thank you as well for coming on today.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
So for starters, I guess the first question that I want to ask you guys is, you guys have been geoengineering activists for a while now. Exactly how long have you been doing it, and what is it that drives you to get all this information together?
I've been a geoengineering activist for about 5 years, but I've had other activist causes before that. This one sort of took over my life. We spend hours and hours a day researching and posting on Facebook and trying to get other people to wake up.
What about?
In my case, I had recently moved to Prescott, Arizona from Minneapolis, and it was again about 5 years ago, 2010, and was at a coffee shop, and I think this experience is common to many people. Somebody points it out, points the sky out. You look up, you're hearing what they're saying, but you're not certain. And then, but I've always been a very curious person, and so I did my own research, and within a very short period of time, I discovered that there is serious concern, and it is a legitimate issue that we have accelerating.
Yes, it seems even here, the skies are already filled with these trails going haywire in our skies, turning these beautiful skies into nothing but a murky haze.
We very rarely have clear skies for a full day.
And it's sad.
It is.
Very.
Now, do you guys encounter a lot of people who doubt and say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory? And how do you respond to someone like that?
That's really common. And, I always tell people there is nothing wrong with being a skeptic. You shouldn't listen to or, believe what I say or, what another person says. Do your research, help them with that. Also bridge to them and tell them that, disclose there was a time when you yourself didn't know. So in other words, you don't want to yell at somebody. You don't want to call them a sheeple. You don't want to belittle them or accuse them of not being awake or, all those things. Just treat them like a human being and let them know if you're calm and credible, if you're reasonable, if you're giving them some facts and also just encouraging them to use their common sense, they'll be much more open to hear what you have to say.
I think that's huge.
It's respect. It's
is.
just treating another person with respect. And, this is about all of us. If you tell them, if you explain it gently, but clarify what you're talking about, and also let them know we're all breathing this air, and it's affecting every single life form on the face of the earth. So our vegetation, in addition to our health, our vegetation, our water, our food, and so it's an issue that. The other thing is just common sense. A really good question to ask people is: are the skies today what they were when you were a child?
Yes.
No.
Or, exactly, yes.
Look at your family pictures from when you were a kid.
Right.
Did you ever have some of those extreme, checkerboard, crazy skies? No. So what's the difference? Start reasoning, helping them sort out. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
There's so many things that are linked together where you can prove this, which points to this, and it just keeps going on. It's
correlations.
Yes, very much so.
And I think you made a good point. When we were younger, that stuff, wasn't even there, and now it's In addition to that stuff, we have higher rates of cancer, higher rates of Alzheimer's, higher rates of Parkinson's. I mean, you name it.
Right.
Dementia,
Autism.
autism, that's a big one.
Horrible.
Autism,
Yes.
right? Dementia, respiratory illness. You know, from 2005 to 2010, according to the CDC reports, respiratory mortality has grown from 8th on the list to 3rd, and we think it's worse now. You know, that the last measure was 2010. That's considerable. If you look around, just look around, who's coughing?
Uh-huh.
You know,
And the oxygen. So many people
Many
using
people.
oxygen here.
And so much so that they've given this cough a name, and I mean
Yeah.
the name is, they named it, what is it, chemtrail flu. Have you guys heard?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the dubbed.
right?
A dub name, and it's like, okay, if they're going to dub a name to this thing, hello, you know, start taking notes, start taking efforts.
Right.
And I think that's why I just love you guys, because I mean, they are gathering hardcore data, and you guys are going to see not even a tenth of what they have, literally.
No.
I could only scan so much in my system, and some of it will
I
will
have
hold
a little
up.
bit
Yeah.
right here.
Yes, that's not a little. Let me see, what, hundred some odd
about.
pages of evidence here. But one thing that I want to talk about, and I think it's an interesting point from you guys, but you talk about how you don't prefer the term chemtrail. Can you explain why you don't do that and why you prefer geoengineering over the other?
Sure, I'd be happy to talk to that. I used to use it myself. You did too. In fact, I think when I first met her,
I said, don't say it
she
anymore.
said, don't yeah, she did.
You're the culprit.
She scolded me. And yeah, she did. She truly did. And she was right. So what happens, and from life experience, and I think any dedicated activist can tell you the same, when you're discussing this issue, and you're needing to convey important information to, it could be to officials, it could be to elected officials, it could be to scientists, it could be to major media. If you use the scientific terms that match the government documents and match the climate science meetings and so forth, they don't have a way out. This is real. You know, the geoengineering, climate engineering, solar radiation management, all those things are documented and real.
Government.
As soon as you use the term chemtrail, which is kind of a slang term, and most people, you know, identify with that, you're marginalized. You're called a conspiracy theorist. The tenor of the conversation immediately shifts to, you're not credible. You don't know what you're talking about.
Tinfoil.
Tinfoil hat. You're this is just anecdotal. You don't, you know, you don't understand science.
You don't have anything better to
forth.
do.
So there are countless interviews. You know, there was a really a good example of one was David Pacman interviewing Dane Wigington, where Dane insisted on using the scientific terms, and David Pacman would not stop. He was relentless in using the term chemtrail in a very degrading way to derail, you know, the seriousness of the subject. So it's a mouthful. You do have to explain to people what it means, and it's okay to say you may have heard of it by the term chemtrail, but you know, do your best to try to use that so that our goal is reached. Our goal is, you know, credibility, getting people to understand what this is and join us in exposing the programs to get them stopped.
The numbers are growing like crazy. People do know what geoengineering means.
Yeah.
And they're sharing that with others.
Well, that's another interesting point, is that in February, in advance of some science meetings in California, where David Keith, who's a very well-known geoengineer, was going to be coming forth to talk about using solar radiation management or geoengineering to remediate global warming. And he prior to that, there was a period of a week in February where about more than 24 major news stories in the mainstream media came out, all talking about geoengineering. So trying to trying to indoctrinate again, trying to, you know, in the sense the public should know what that means, but they're getting ready to sell it. So, but at these meetings, interestingly enough, they decided to dump geoengineering and reterm again and use albedo management instead of solar radiation management and things like that. Because they know people are catching on. Through our education, people are catching on to these terms, and so they're going to switch it up again.
They do that to divert too. Like, I mean, for example, I don't know how you feel about the Affordable Health Care Act, but they title it affordable.
Right.
It's not affordable, you know, and this is the kind of deception I think we see at a government level. And I know you guys have run into that, and that makes complete sense that they're going to try to change the term. Therefore, it's going to put a lag in the process, you know, because that's what happens. It goes from one to the next to the next, and there's a lag before everyone starts catching up and catching on again. And I think that's imperative.
If they rename something, like you said, albedo, instead of solar radiation management, then if you go on a government site and you search solar radiation management, it's not going to be up to date because they've changed the name.
Exactly.
So we got to keep on it.
It is. I think it's huge. Now, because you guys are such activists, on the day that the mysterious fibers, I mean, I think they were, what, 10 to 20 feet in length, is that right?
About 50.
Yeah, even
minimum,
some.
right,
Yeah.
minimum.
And being that they were landing all over, I mean, what was your initial thought as activists the day that event went down?
I was the one that happened to be outside and hear the aircraft. It was very unusual because it was so loud. And I looked up. I had my cell phone in my hand. I clicked it to camera, and it was a C-130 followed by 2 other planes that went over. So as soon as I didn't even have time to zoom or try to be careful and get it, you know. I was just lucky to get a shot.
Extremely.
Really lucky because it happened very fast. But I called her immediately because they were going in the direction of, you know, where she lives, and asked her to go outside to see if she could spot this. And what was so unusual, it was the configuration of the 3 planes and how low they were.
Right.
It was in minutes later when you saw it, maybe within a minute, and then the sky filled with these filaments. So there was irony in it because we were already familiar with this happening in other places of the world. So we already knew what we needed to do.
It was that strange in itself that 2 activists.
The irony of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we knew what to do. We knew we needed to get a sample, and we knew who we needed to call, the EPA and ADEQ and
FAA and
the
Air Force.
Now there's 2 things that I want to bring up to you guys. Is first of all, let's show them the evidence for the lab work that you actually did. I'm gonna clip that in just a moment, and then I want to talk a little bit about that plane, the C-130 plane. So let me change gears here. All right, so what you're looking at here, as you can see, this is Corey Gunnell's sample here that she took of the fibers that dropped. And as you can see, it's got a huge elevated level here of 1020. And it states very specifically in the qualifier that it's elevated reporting limits, as you can see there. This contains a huge amount of aluminum and barium, basically your cocktail for your typical geoengineering trail. Here is another one down here that Marie did, and this also shows your strontium at an elevated level and aluminum at an elevated level. Again, this is your fibers that are being tested here at elevated reporting limits. All right, so now in regards to that KC-130 military aircraft that flew overhead, there were 3 of them, but one of them you were able to identify as a KC-130. And how did you identify that plane?
Well, at first, when it was flying, we didn't know exactly what it was, but we had it identified. And it also flew in very close formation with 2 escorts. They were smaller aircraft. One was a Lear and the other was something else. But the KC-130 with the 2 escorts were flying toward me from Corey, and one of the escorts on the north side of the KC-130 did a U-turn and that's the one that flew above me, and that's when the fibers fell from the direction of the aircraft and covered everything in sight.
Okay, so, and I know you guys have photo of that, and it clearly shows your KC-130 aircraft.
Right.
Now, here's the interesting part, and you guys are totally going to love this, or it's going to upset you, I should say. But when you called all the local Air Force bases, military Air Force bases, what happened when you called to inquire about this military aircraft driving overhead?
I think I started by calling Ernest Love Field, which is in Prescott, Arizona, in case you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I actually spoke with air traffic control, which they don't have a huge tower and all these different people sitting there guiding in, you know, air traffic. There's one guy, and I asked him if he had any record of a KC-130 with 2 escorts flying on November 5th at about 4 p.m. And he said, no, I'm not familiar with that at all. They either used a code 1200, which means that they just let the tower know that they were flying over, or they had their transponders turned off. And so I questioned, how could this huge aircraft fly over a populated area? And in the picture, you can plainly see that the loading ramp on the back of the KC-130 was open. So the KC-130 did not fly above me, only one of the escorts.
Okay, but you saw it. You guys saw the KC-130.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was at a very low elevation and
But-
flying, you know, over a populated area.
Now, you also contacted local military bases as well, correct?
Yeah, I called Luke Air Force Base. This took a week or 10 days or so for them to get back to me. And Luke does not fly KC-130s, and the next in line was Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and they do fly KC-130s. And I think it was about 2 weeks of back and forth with the public affairs officer, a lieutenant, and she said that they were going to investigate this, and it came back all of a sudden one day, it wasn't our plane. I'm sorry, I can't help you anymore. Contact was cut off right there.
Well, the initial contact was very interesting because she called you from her home.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't even wait to get into the office the next
Wow.
day. She was concerned, and
That's true. I forgot that part.
you know, I kind of initially wondered if their concern was because we're a border state, and they immediately wanted to know, yeah, we want
True.
to identify these planes too.
Mm-hmm.
So her response to you initially was very good. And-
Wow, we need to look into this.
Right.
We're sorry this happened. You know, I have no idea.
Right.
So
But all in all, no one admitted to it.
it's
No.
not ours. It's not ours. The
Typical.
FAA doesn't
No.
know. The ADEQ doesn't know. They referred us to the EPA, who, I mean, it was
Right.
just back and forth.
Right.
Back
And a
and forth.
KC-130, that's not a recreational pilot.
No,
So-
this thing is going to belong to a military. It's not going to belong to
Right.
Is Russia flying overhead? I mean,
Correct.
come on, they're going
No,
to.
I know.
You know, so I think that's pretty obvious there. I know that throws up a ringers.
Yeah.
Number one is here we have a military aircraft flying overhead, and they blatantly deny it belongs to any of them, and it has to belong at least to one of them. We know,
Right.
and
Right.
all out
Right.
the door.
There
Right.
was a newspaper article done, and in the newspaper article, the editor stated that he contacted, I don't know if it was probably Davis-Monthan, and they denied that those were even those were not military aircraft. We don't think that those were not military aircraft.
Of course,
So-
they have to because
Okay,
they're
then
stuck down their
somebody
tracks.
just bought a KC-130 and they're going to go to Nevada, to Vegas for the day.
Right.
Maybe Area 51. I don't know.
That's a topic for another day.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, if we don't know who it is, and we had these toxins dropped, I mean, covering everything, then it must be terrorism. Well, either way, it's terrorism. I don't care who did it, it was terrorism.
Amen. I'm all for that. Now, you guys had also contacted representative. You contacted Paul Gosar and his office. And what happened when you guys did that after this event?
Prior to that, the very first call was to the EPA and Region 9, which serves Arizona, California, this area of the Southwest. And I did have actual contact with a woman there, and she said, because it's in real time happening right now, you need to deal with someone closer. And she gave me the phone number for ADEQ, which is Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. So I did, of course, follow up with that. I didn't reach anybody in person. It was getting late in the day because this happened at around 4 p.m. And I did file an online report, which they prefer. And
A complaint.
yes, they call it a complaint. And it's fairly detailed. You know, you give them all your contact information and describe the incident. You also describe if you were referred. So of course I checked yes, I was referred by Region 9, you know, EPA. And within 5 days I received an email of confirmation that they received it and a case number. So the same happened with you.
I contacted and filed a complaint with Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, the EPA, and the FAA. And they, like I said before, referred us back and forth.
Right.
And gave us the runaround. You know, this is not our jurisdiction.
Right.
You know, these were emissions. No, they weren't.
Right.
These fibers fell from the direction of a military aircraft. Not,
It
it's
wasn't.
not an
Exactly.
emission. It's not exhaust.
It wasn't exhaust. It was
And
not.
here's your proof.
Right. It wasn't an aerosol trail. We had photographs of the material, and then we obviously collected a sample and sent it in to a certified lab.
Two
Right.
different labs.
Two
The
two
ones.
samples. Right. So
So you're just getting the complete runaround from the EPA, from
yeah. Right.
um,
Right.
from all of it,
Right.
basically.
And yeah, I also emailed 94 members of the legislature and only heard back from Judy Burgess.
And you've got some of those printed emails,
I
right?
have every documented contact.
Yes, and we've seen these. She's got documented contact of the emails between the representative, which, you know, I encourage everyone.
This is
Is this one?
The email that I received back from Judy Burgess.
Okay.
I wrote to her, I wanted you to know that she had already been contacted by me regarding these fibers. And
They
to make a
took a
long
false
story
story.
short, she writes back, "Thank you, Marie. The pictures did open this time. I sent her the pictures and all the documents that I had. I have looked into this issue before, and Dr. Kelly Ward held a committee hearing on the issue. I have heard that they have been spraying in Mojave County as well as Sedona."
Wow. Let me show this to the viewers, kind of. You can pause it if you want to read it, but there's the email.
Yes.
And you've got tons of these.
Oh my gosh.
We have numerous. Yeah. It's well, you know what ended up happening is Representative Gosar's office took it seriously. Said we will, you know, do what we can to help you investigate. They contacted the EPA. The EPA then sent back, after some time, which is probably that top
Yes.
letter, after some time sent back a letter to Representative Gosar saying, yes, we're familiar with this case. We, their language is really interesting in that report because they say that they looked up the story. They noticed that Channel 5, CBS affiliate in Phoenix, Channel 5 did a story where they took the material for testing to Grand Canyon University and determined that it was veterinary.
Cow
Count.
dog.
Basically, yeah, they said it was due to cattle bandages. So the EPA washed their hands of it. Said, you know, in their letter, the language was, we do not have a program to. It's actually the information that unfortunately the EPA has no specific program responsible for the investigation of this type of incident.
Now I have a file of this letter, right?
Right.
Let me pull up that letter for you guys.
So what they did.
All right, so here is the letter. Go ahead and continue with what you were talking
Okay,
about.
I think what's most important about this is this is the EPA's response to Representative Paul Gosar. And it's telling him, yes, they're aware of this case, they've looked into it. They note that they checked the CBS affiliate station in Phoenix of Channel 5 News, noted that they had taken samples to the forensic lab at Grand Canyon University and had declared, that's the word, declared it was a mixture of wheat gluten flour, bacitracin, and possibly used for veterinary use. So Channel 5 actually called this, cattle bandages. So what's interesting here is that the EPA is our, it's our protection agency. It's a government agency. They're supposed to do our job and take these reports seriously. They say, unfortunately, the EPA has no specific program responsible for the investigation of this type of incident. And then they offered us fact sheets. Mm-hmm. So basically, they washed their hands of it.
Well, GOSAR, I have to say, GOSAR requested that the EPA investigate this matter.
Right.
And their investigation included only Googling our CBS 5 News interview regarding the findings of cow gauze. That was their total investigation, nothing more.
Now
They came to that conclusion.
However, they did have the information about our certified labs, which they noted was interesting, but evidently,
wow,
they felt that the CBS report was sufficient.
Now, let me just interject here real quick. What we're talking about is when the official investigation on the mysterious chemical fibers that were found, those 20, 50-foot long fibers were found, they originally called the local news source, the CBS 5 KPHO, I think, and they completely ran a bogus story. And if you guys check out my link below, it's in there. But they even had green grass and green cotton
Well, they
cotton
had
fields.
a green screen background.
Yes.
With a close up of a cotton field.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is not what Chino Valley looks like. It's flat. There's no grass.
No, it's not green.
And not, I don't see cornfield, or not corn, but
Well, our
cotton fields.
Our climate
Thank you.
our climate here isn't conducive to growing cotton.
Right. And here they are very deceptively, they show that, and then they blame it on cow gauze. I know you guys are well aware, but no aircraft is going to drop a bunch of cow gauze.
50-foot long cow gauze.
There's no, it makes no sense.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
So it is completely bogus story from CBS 5, CBS? No,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, CBS.
From CBS 5, the local news source, and which is why it was a good thing that you guys actually got further testing and took it to InfoWars, who aired it live, as well as I aired it on Before It's News. But that's what they're referencing. They got the runaround, and so what's happening as a result when they're contacting politicians and leaders, they're getting the runaround saying, oh, it was cow gauze. No, because there's proof and there's hardcore evidence otherwise. But this was the story they ran, so they had an answer to the public because it was a pretty big event.
Right.
And basically did it all
Right.
under a lie. And I even confronted the news source, and so I know they got a lot of damage from us about running that
We
false
weren't the
story.
only ones that called that day. There were 2 people
Wow.
in Phoenix that reported these fibers falling also, but they failed to
They
air
failed
that.
to mention it.
How far is Phoenix from Chino?
90 miles, 90
Wow.
Yeah. Completely different topography. As you know, Phoenix is a desert valley, and we're a high mountain plateau of a mile high. So and Phoenix, their climate doesn't support cattle. We do have historic cattle ranches here. Phoenix does not.
They bake them.
So anyway, they failed to mention.
And what would a military aircraft want with gauze anyway? I mean, cow gauze.
A veterinarian.
I
I
have
don't know.
said I think that with their conclusion, as ridiculous as it is, was actually helpful because it shows case in point what the mainstream media does
Exactly.
with stories like this.
They interviewed me for over an hour, and I had samples of cobwebs, spider webs, to compare the two. I offered them half of my fiber sample to have tested. They refused it. After I left the interview is when they collected their own sample from a fence.
They reported to collect a sample.
Yes, exactly.
We don't know. It wasn't observed.
Wow. So there you have it.
Maybe they did take in cattle bandages.
They could have.
Yeah, I mean, they could have taken it, yes.
They would have done a lot better to take half of my sample.
Right. Well, with that, I want to play a clip for you guys I found of a phone conversation between an EPA, a lady, I'm blanking on her name at the moment, but a lady contacted the EPA about fibers, geoengineering fibers, and I find it interesting because throughout the interview, and it's about a 3-minute interview, but she admits how harmful this is. So let's go ahead and play that clip, if that's all right.
Yes, ma'am. The reason I'm calling, I have a few questions I was wondering if you could help me with.
What kind of questions, ma'am?
What I'm concerned about is what they're spraying on us with these chemtrails on almost a daily basis.
Ma'am, that's not an EPA issue there. That is on the investigation. They don't have answers to that, but they do have a documentary coming out that's supposed to be 2014.
Oh,
But this is not an EPA issue. No one really knows what is going on with the spraying there. The documentary is entitled, What Are They Spraying and Why Are They Spraying? So
wait a minute. I thought you were the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yes, ma'am, we are, but we are not
Uh-oh. Hold on.
the ones spraying. That will be the people that have studied the atmosphere. That is not an EPA issue. That is something that they are trying to find out what is going on. They have questions about it, but it's nothing, as they do the research and find out more information, they are releasing information, and it should be more coming out this, like I say, in 2014.
Well, this is 2014.
Ma'am, I know that, but I don't know when, but that was the last. They said it will be out in 2014. This has nothing to, EPA is not, cannot give any answers on that because we don't know who's spraying. The researchers are the ones that are doing it.
Well, we know it's the pilots doing it and everything, and we know it's got something to do with government. I thought EPA was a part of government.
They are part of government. We are not the only government agency. We are just part of the government. This is their call. If you can go on the internet and you can key in chemtrails/spraying, and you will get the information that you need on that. This is being researched by solar experts and engineers and climate researchers. And they believe it's being done by government performing secret, atmospheric testing, but they are not sure. And they're the chemical conspiracy.
Yeah, well, there's something like over 50 chemicals, including dead viruses, blood, lead, chromium, strontium, barium, aluminum, all kind of stuff. That's the reason I figured, FDA would have their hands in this. But I guess I was wrong.
We're not the ones it's being researched by the solar experts and the geoengineers, climate researchers.
Well, then what is your job there? What is the EPA doing then? What are they doing? What are they there for?
Ma'am, what do you mean, what are we here for?
This has got everything to do with climate and everything. We're being...
Ma'am, you're speculating we do, but this is one issue that we are not handling. You can call any research of the solar experts, EPA and climate researchers. This chemtrail and spraying is not an EPA issue. We are not the ones they don't even know the answers to this.
Okay.
That's why they are researching it.
Okay.
And it's not being researched by EPA. It's being researched by climate researchers, solar experts, geoengineers.
Okay.
And it is actually doing harm to to killing all the vegetation. The trees are dying, and ozone.
Yeah, not to mention what it's doing to humans and animals because we're all sick.
Yeah. It's doing some harm. But they don't have any answers. Like I say, the document is entitled, Why Are They Spraying and What Are They Spraying?
So there you have it. She definitely got the runaround, but at least the EPA gal admitted right there that it was harmful. And real quick, that was a clip I found on YouTube. It obviously back in 2014, but I wanted to bring it because this is kind of what you guys encountered. But it was done by the DAMO 63. I found it on that YouTube channel. But what do you guys think about that? There's a lot in there.
Very interesting. I mean, it was very interesting. I would be interested in knowing if the woman is still employed by the EPA, to tell you the truth, because I think she disclosed a little too much.
I would agree.
Yeah, according to their, their general standards.
She was definitely put on the spot, and I don't like people to call the messenger and start cursing them or calling them names. She just works there.
Yeah.
Well,
but
in this case, I think she was treated well. I don't know who know who the woman was that called, but it was obvious to me that she was familiar.
Yes, definitely.
She's probably not the first call. And
refer to a documentary.
But, here we go again. A government agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, is referring to a documentary, good or bad. Any documentary, that's a good documentary, but shouldn't our government do their own investigation? That's what they're there for.
Exactly.
That's what they're paid for.
Are they protecting themselves from us, is what I take it as.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows how ridiculous and at what level they operate from.
Exactly.
Not very high.
No. Now, you guys have also been to meetings in Kingman that they held. Can you maybe explain some of that, what you encountered there as well?
Last year?
It was June 25th of 2014, and that meeting was a public forum organized by Bridget Langstrom and Luca Zanna from Kingman, Arizona. They worked on, as well as other activists, but they were, really the two leaders in this, and had worked on public education and trying to get a liaison to, our elected officials for about 5 years, and they were able to get Senator Ward to agree to this public meeting, where about 100 or maybe a little more public citizens showed up. So at this meeting, about 100 concerned citizens arrived, and it was a 5 p.m. meeting, so that's a really good showing. Everyone was very well spoken, intelligent. They had documents, serious concerns, which they conveyed very, very well. In addition, Senator Ward and ADEQ were handed a stack of people's certified lab results. Mainly blood tests, consistently showing very high toxic levels of these heavy metals. And I'd like to point out that Senator Ward is also an MD. She is a practicing MD, and she practices emergency room medicine. So she should, it's not only her job to serve her constituents, but she also has the education and background to know the seriousness of that. The conclusion of the meeting, she said, she reminded people that, this was first step, that, she would consider taking this further. And after that, we didn't hear anything from her. So numerous activists contacted her very politely, asking for follow-up, and she completely dropped it. There was no contact. There was not even a message saying, I'm not interested in this, or I'm too busy, or maybe we'll revisit this, next quarter, or it was just absolutely no contact.
Wonder if she got harassed or something.
You never
worth
know.
finding.
I mean, you never know.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think politicians run into at times, is they're told to keep their mouth shut.
Yes, they are.
And unfortunately, that's the world we live in, where they are experimenting. There's no other way to view that. Right. Or depopulating or limiting the age. And how are they doing that? By dropping the chemicals.
Right.
Now, you guys actually have tangible evidence here that you've brought, and this is the similar stuff that you've brought to some of those meetings, like the Kingman meeting. And I want to show you guys, because you need to see this stuff. And for everything I'm showing you, there is a bunch more. I just don't have the time to show it all. Now, maybe let's start first with some of your photos of the skies, and kind of explain some of that, and just hold it up to the camera there.
Daily, I don't know if you can see that, it's a little washed out. I have been going to our weather forecast in Chino Valley, Arizona. I do a screen capture. I go outside and I take pictures throughout the day. On here it says sunny. If that's sunny, I have no idea what sunny is anymore.
Yeah, not when these trails of white are blocking our skies. But this is kind of cool, you know.
It says sunny over and over, but what are those lines? And why do they spread out and turn into a milky, toxic soup daily? How many days of full days of sun have we had?
Not very many.
No, because they're blocked out by the murky haze,
Right.
you know.
And Arizona is, you know, we're known for our beautiful, beautiful deep blue skies. Inspiration to artists and
Yes.
photographers from around the world. When I first moved here 5 years ago, I tell people, you know, that the skies in some ways were kind of boring because there was no change, no
Right.
clouds, you know. And then late May,
Blue is
well,
blue.
actually late June, we would look for clouds because it would show that the monsoon was setting up.
Right.
So we would get relief in temperature and water. But prior to that, every single day was a dark blue, just, you know, breathtaking blue sky.
Yeah, and now they're being ripped from us. I don't know how else to
Right.
put that. Now, let's get into some of the pond water samples. Because a lot of the times I know you encounter these meetings, well, we don't have any of this, and then you bring your tangible evidence, and then what happens? The door gets shut, or you get the runaround. As soon as you bring that tangible evidence, everything goes out the door.
Right.
But I want to show you guys, because you guys need to see this. Now, this was a big one. I'm going to hold it up to camera. Will you kind of explain the MDL here? This is a
The
pond water.
maximum detection level, I'm not sure what it is because I can't see it from here. I don't have
Oh, it's
glasses.
300.
Okay, well, the tested level is 375,000 for aluminum.
That's toxic.
Right.
That is deadly. I don't think anything could be living in that water.
Right.
No. And now that we've got others, I'm going to flip the channel here and just show you guys.
I have a lab here also. It was a snow sample taken at Mount Shasta, and the aluminum level for this snow sample was 61,100, and the maximum detection level is 30. We went on to barium, which the results were 83, and the maximum detection level is 1. Strontium was 383, and the maximum detection level is 1.
So
And again, this is for snow.
and that's obviously showing, and that's not all. Let me show you some more. All right, here is kind of some more here. And let me show you guys this file. This entire file here shows a bunch of rainwater tests and tests that they have done showing elevated levels. A lot of them show elevated levels, some not so much, but there are definitely everything from rainwater samples to samples taken from gutters to snow and different kinds of things that you can see here. And I will leave a link to this because I think this is imperative, but you guys can scroll through any of these files here and you can get an overall picture of what we're talking about specifically. As you can see here is a level as well. All right, so as you can see, those are some very tangible files, and there's tons of them out there. Now, you also have samples for blood work and air particulates. Can you, I guess we'll start with the air particulates. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And we've got some files to show for that as well.
Okay, yeah, you should have a 2007,
You want me to pull that up?
2008, sure. I have a report here from the EPA regarding Phoenix air particulates. The last one I could find was 2009. I have dug and requested from the EPA updated air particulate test just for the state of Phoenix. Aluminum in 2009 was 39,000, and that's
Elevated.
Very elevated. It says here 2. I would think that that's the maximum contaminant level, which is the toxic limit. Don't go above that. So we went from 2 to 39,000. That's in 2009. What is it now?
And what's causing it? Obviously, I'm concerned that it has to do with geoengineering trails. That's
Correct.
what it is.
Correct. Where else could it come from?
Right. And that's not all. There's others on there, right? Iron and
there's iron, which is toxic to the liver if you have too much in your blood, and barium was 2,100, and the maximum contaminant level was 2. We keep talking about aluminum, barium, and strontium. Those are not the only 3 heavy metals found in the geoengineered fibers that fall, or the blood, or this is just the 3 most common. And
Right.
and basically, if you're tested for these, there's a good chance you're probably highly positive.
right. Now you have another one too. Let's here's the other air particulates, and this is from '08, but again, you can see results there. And maybe I'll read this one since it's kind of backwards for you. But we have aluminum at 12,000. You have your 2,000 is your MCL, way above toxic levels. I mean, this is insane, folks. 12,800, excuse me. Big difference compared to 2,000. Then we have 16,800,000. No, yeah, that's okay. If I 16,800,000. This is 12,800,000. Sorry, that wasn't a decimal. It is a comma. But that's aluminum, iron, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. You guys can pause that and look, but definitely there as well.
And that may very well be why there aren't any tests after that available for the public view.
They don't want it out.
I have emailed the EPA 3 times in the last, well, they have an excuse for not answering. I emailed them on Friday. It was the weekend. Hopefully when I get home, I'll have some results. I basically demanded in a very nice way air particulate records from 2010 to present. And I plan on filing a FOIA for not just these air particulates, but for anything else that says the word aluminum, barium, or strontium in it.
That's
so
good.
That's going to cover a whole bunch. Not saying that that's going to get us anything, but I'm not going to stop.
Right. Well, this
created
is
a monster.
This is why, folks, they're not sharing. We're in the millions here, and limits in the thousands. That's an issue, and that's why they're covering up what they do,
And
that's
that's
why they're doing what they do.
2009.
Yeah.
What is it now?
And I've seen an uptick in this stuff. I don't know if you guys have over years,
Absolutely.
but it's
Absolutely.
upped its ante.
Very much so.
It's
Not only
sick.
here, but across the United States and across the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
There is nowhere on this planet that is free from this spraying.
No.
We have a member in one of our groups, Geoengineering Fallout Evidence on Facebook, and he's from Sumatra. That's in the middle of the Indian Ocean in Southeast Asia. And he posts pictures of these trails
Wow.
every day.
There's
So
a
I would
target.
advise everybody, have your blood tested, get a heavy metal test done, but you have to also say aluminum, barium, and strontium. For some reason, they don't include those unless you request
Right.
on top of the regular heavy metal panel.
Now that gets me into my next question. Obviously, with toxic levels in our air particulates, with toxic levels in our rainwater, you guys have seen both samples. Also, the samples of the fibers themselves. We have got all the documentation on that. That's going to affect our blood. That's going to affect our bodies. It's going to affect our health. And how does it affect our health? There's lots of unfortunate information on that. But you, Corey, have tested your blood specifically, correct?
Right. I did talk to my family practitioner, MD, about the incident in November of the filaments falling. I showed her the lab results. That definitely got her attention, and she said we do need to test your blood and urine. She said it's unfortunate that our labs here do not test for hair anymore. She wanted something local. But she said, let's start with that. She said, if you register toxic levels, you know, I'll refer you on for chelation. So I did have my blood tested. Aluminum didn't show.
Well, can I pull up the results
Sure.
so you guys can see with us? Okay.
Okay. So I did have my blood tested, and as you can see, the strontium measured in micrograms per liter of 160, and the reporting limit, or the, you know, it shouldn't be any higher than 5, a value of 5. For strontium, it was 26, and it shouldn't be any higher than a value of 10. And you can see in the notes there, my doctor wrote, you know, barium and strontium are high, and she's questioning whether the patient has had any recent tests, which is not true. You know, like X-rays, barium swallows, things like that. And so when the doctor's office called me, the nurse said, you know, your doctor would like you to repeat these tests to make sure that we didn't receive any false positives.
Wow.
So I assured him that I was comfortable with, not comfortable, but that I accepted that these would be true values, because they match what we've seen in so many people reporting from Mojave County.
Now, it was a little hard to see that number, so I want to show you the tangible one too. See, there. You can see the 160 and where she talked about barium and strontium there. So if you want to pause that, you can, but definitely this is what you just saw.
Right.
Yeah, there we go. I wanted to show you her name. All right. So there you have it. Now, that's not the only blood work. You guys have collected blood work from other people as well. Right. And I have files of that. I think it's, let's go to those files. Right. All right, so here are those lab reports. This is blood work. And as you can see here, elevated levels of barium. Corey, what is your typical level for barium, aluminum, and strontium found in our blood?
I don't know what a
10.
limit for aluminum would be. I do know that barium is a 5.
Is a 5
micrograms per liter, and strontium should be no more than 10. So when you're seeing these levels, mine was 160. There are others from Mojave County. I'm not sure what shows there, but yeah, they're all in that range or higher.
Yeah, all these people that we're finding, and a common factor is they were all spiked high. I mean, we're talking 130 to 160 on the barium, and your typical, when I looked on the internet, it was anywhere from 2 to 10. And on the document here, they're saying reporting level 11. So even if it is 11, here we are. This is Michael.
Okay.
Hold on.
So when I was referred to by my physician to another practitioner for chelation therapy, what he told me in my consultation with him was, he said, this is your blood work, and he said, with the values that high, and if it's in blood work, he said the true value would be much, much higher, because this is an indication of what's free to your bloodstream at that time. It's not showing what your body's captured, what your tissues and your organs have captured. And these metals like to embed.
Right.
That's why chelation is an agent that they use to hopefully and successfully bind the metals to it, and then your body, excretes it. So in this case, he said aluminum. I asked him about aluminum because my test did not show that, and he said, no doubt. And he said aluminum tends to go to the tissue immediately. It is not free to your bloodstream.
And the brain.
I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing barium. Barium, for whatever reason, must circulate in your blood a little bit more than maybe some of the others.
Yeah, so in all actuality, everything we're seeing here is probably a lot higher.
That's correct. That's correct.
See, and this, if you get your blood checked, if you're having health symptoms and problems, check your levels, check your barium, strontium, check those heavy metals, aluminum, because look, this is what it is. This is the real deal.
Right.
We've proven it's in the water. We've proven it's in air particulates. We're proving even it's in bloodstream. And there's countless of these, folks. I'm just scrolling through a few here for you to see.
The other thing you have to know is when you're talking to your medical practitioner and they're ordering these tests, there is a general panel for screening, heavy metal screening, but they do need to make sure that they add the barium, the strontium, and the aluminum to that.
Yeah.
So that, you're checking for those things. So yes, I wish that everyone, just as their standard annual physical, could get this done and wouldn't have to wait until they have any kind of symptoms. But if you have repeat, like immune problems, respiratory problems, heart problems, or neurological problems,
Dementia.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's.
Or even dizziness or ringing of the ears, or something that they really can't identify.
Balance
and
problems.
Maybe want to just treat with a medication. Be a strong advocate for yourself and insist on getting this done.
I agree. So yeah, I think you're spot on. People need to get their blood work done. I still need to get mine done. She's I need to get mine done. I've been telling her I will. And you know what? That's where a majority of your health issues are coming from. And I think it's imperative. And especially with this many files, you got a taste. You didn't get the whole enchilada. There's a lot more here. And I think we've definitely made, in my opinion, 99.9, if not 100% case for what they're doing here. Everything from what you encountered in Chino to what you've been gathering together to the runaround you've been given to even some politicians changing their mind last minute. These are all red flags. Now, in conclusion, two things. First, is there any closing thoughts that you guys would like to add to this? And then we'll get into your website.
I would like to ask people to take this very seriously. Understand, something that we're educating the public on right now is that we're out of time.
Right.
We're seeing the decimation of trees, human health, our water, our food. I'm not even sure that we could actually call anything organic food anymore because it's grown, under these conditions. The other thing we just talked about was a sadness that what's natural is no longer safe. So children shouldn't be out playing in the rain. They shouldn't be, eating snow. And that's sad.
It's really sad.
It's right.
It is.
So there are so many things in regard to this issue that we haven't covered, like the extinction of an average of 200 species a day right now. So we're just asking people in the general public to please ask questions, do some research, help us. Don't be afraid to speak about this, and do get your blood tested if you can, or urine, which again this naturopath preferred that method. And the more doctors that see this, they won't be able to ignore it anymore.
Right.
So we're faced with urgency. We have some climate science. There's a climate science UN meeting coming up in December in Paris, and they're going to be the geoengineers and the governments that will be pushing for geoengineering.
Oh yeah.
Officially. And
so they can do it out in the open now.
Correct.
These wild fluctuations in temperature are not natural.
No.
Geoengineering.
No. Climate engineering, everything, So
Arctic methane.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in great trouble. We're seriously in trouble with. I'm not sure how we can remediate the pollution that this has caused in the soil and the waters. I don't know at this point. Right. But we need to stop it right away. So it's very serious, and it affects every single human being with every breath you take.
And if you want to doubt us, I like to say, what if? Are you willing to take the chance? No. What if? We've tied all of this together.
Mm-hmm. I think that the evidence is there. Mm-hmm. It's out there and so far in the open. I don't even know how people deny it anymore. It's living that blatant lie told by the media. So
Hidden in the open.
it really is.
Right.
And that's what they don't want you to know. And really, we could spend 6 hours here going through what they have. And it's tons of data, tons of info. And I commend you guys for it. And I really want to encourage you guys to continue on that path.
We will.
So with that, what website can people contact you? If people have information about chemtrails and they want to give it to you, where can they do this at and how?
There are several things. I would encourage anyone to go to, there's a main website that's very, very good called geoengineeringwatch.org. That's updated daily. There are articles, interviews, there are radio programs. There's a search engine. Also, we run a Facebook page called Geoengineering Fallout Evidence. So I'd encourage anybody to join us. And then we just started another one called Geoengineering Fallout Evidence Lab Results. That's only if you have, some of these that you want to share with us, so that we can start collecting a larger library of these. Can be very effective.
And that's the only thing that will be
On that particular page. The other one, Geoengineering Fallout Evidence, is a very good page.
All right. So I will leave a link to those Facebook pages. Are you guys on Scene as well?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We need to be.
Okay. So I'll leave a link below for their website, but definitely get in there and check it out. Send them information, because in turn we can publicize it. We can put it on the media and get it out there, whatever they have. So
Right.
But thank you guys again for
Thank
coming
you,
on the
Lisa.
show today, and
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you guys are here, and glad for the time together. And again, just for all you viewers out there, a heads up, start looking up, start facing up to those skies, and being activists and getting the news out there and sharing with friends and family, however possible. Anyhow, thank you guys again, and thanks for coming on the Lisa Haven News Network.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.